World of doom and gloom. Every every movie we've watched and every show and all that, even even comedy shows like The Simpsons and stuff have been doing these doom and gloom, um, you know, dystopian future crazy things, um, for years, right? Like Twilight Zone, way back. Imagine a world where whatever bad things are going on, and then knowing that people can will our we can will our own existence. So mankind's will can create the world that they live in. So we keep thinking about the dystopian future, and now we're walking straight into it. A lot of people think that it's it's the only future, because it's the only one we've imagined. So it's the only one that people think of, and so they think it's an inevitability or whatever, so that they think that it's gotta happen anyways, so it might as well happen now or whatever. Um, I think it's going to happen for sure. I think that it's going to happen because of this thinking that so many people have, and like it's people I know, and they'll argue it against logic. They don't care about being making sense. It's crazy, but I think we got to use the same kind of technique that they used against us, against them, and come up with a utopian future. I keep thinking about things, and I keep thinking I should be writing them down or making little videos and saying my ideas of what the world should actually be like. I was just thinking about politicians. When you think about it, um, when they say like we need to have income tax or we wouldn't have roads or whatever, well, that's us paying for infrastructure as the people grouping together and paying for the roads that we need or the plows or the whatever. Uh, so they're just the middleman. I don't know. I know a lot about middleman stuff because I'm a carpenter, so I get middlemaned a lot with homeowners, and I'll see that happen where I'll get charged out at close to $40 an hour and only get paid less than 20, and then homeowners bitch about carpenters being expensive and stuff. Anyway, a lot of that money all just goes to the government. Even the business owner that's charging the big money or whatever, they're getting taxed and taxed and taxed again, just like we all do. They get a bunch of write-offs if you're smart and stuff, but whatever. It's just a middleman. And middlemen they're very unnecessary. I always delete them, right? And not so much in carpentry, but dealing in weed and especially when it was black market thing with pot. I was a dealer, number one. I was a farmer, number two, and I was a buyer, number three. For years and years, I've been all of them. So, I've been middleman in all of the aspects, and sometimes it's nice to see somebody make some money off of, if you're the farmer, it's nice to have that middleman and see that somebody else is getting the opportunity that you got to sell some pot and make some money, blah blah blah. But usually it's a nuisance if because the price goes up so exponentially that it makes it not worth it for the buyer, or hard to sell, or harder to sell for the top guy, or no money for the middleman, whatever the case is. But these politician middlemen, we can delete them. Like, we really don't need them. We need to think about a way that what would be their actual, because all the laws are already there. They make all these bylaws and try laws and fuck with laws and change laws and blah blah blah. But really, the original laws all worked. There's all these bylaws and things just made the laws weaker, and it made it so that they just take away freedom. They're not helping anybody. They're just screwing everybody over. So most of that stuff is totally irrelevant as well, for the most part. Obviously, some laws need to be updated with technology and stuff like that. Like, Facebook shouldn't be allowed to screw with free speech or whatever. So there should be some new law written for, and as the people, we should be able to make that decision and just come up with those laws. But our leadership should just be able to see that that's a problem and say, okay, irregardless of loopholes in the law system that they might be able to screw around through, this is a real serious problem and it needs to be dealt with right away. And I know it seems dictatorish to just say, well, Zuckerberg, your power, you screwed around too long or whatever, sorry, but your company's confiscated by the people, and now the government owns it or whatever, and it's just free, and take all the advertising off of it and make it just an open platform just for people to talk on. I realize, like, you're pushing a socialist thing, but in some aspects, but really Zuckerberg is pushing it. So, and Instagram, all those guys. So, cause and effect, I guess. In some, you know what I mean? Like, we're supposed to be a republic, and you make laws based on the individual. So you make the law so that it works for every guy, man, woman, and child, on the left or on the right, political views. It shouldn't matter. The law is in the middle, and then none of this mob shit. Like, there shouldn't be, oh, well, we need to make this law because this group's offended. Well, too bad for that group. Grow up. Don't listen. Or suck it up. Don't be babies. But South Park did it best with their little PC baby joke. The little babies just cry. And, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. We've all seen that. And these crying loud liberal morons. And they're not real liberals. They've just taken over the Liberal Party. It's what they've clinged on to. It was the easier party, I think, for this symbiote to link itself to and kind of feed off of. Anyway, in order to destroy that symbiote, we need to come up with a better future, and only in our imaginations. We don't have to actually try to apply this. We just need to all know it, think about it. It'll apply itself once it's in our minds. Once it's in our minds that, okay, like 10 years from now, we're gonna all uh, have no billionaires or whatever, or something like to that effect. That we're gonna be closer to like Star Trek kind of thing, where the wealth of the planet is distributed around the planet so that every man, woman, and child can have the best existence. And school, at grade 6, everybody's kind of separated to different schools, to junior schools, but your junior school could be trades or academic or whatever. And obviously you'd still have math class and science and English and history, but you'd have a lot more focus toward what the kids enjoyed, and you'd be able to tell by then what a kid is gifted, and you'd know that way before then, really. I'm sure, especially if we actually put time and effort into this. We just call everything a learning disability. It's not a learning disability, it's a teaching disability. So if we had better teachers and a better school system for the teachers to work in, then we wouldn't just label everybody as you can't remember what I said blindly with no logic, then you got a learning disability. It's like, no, I got a learning ability that I can't fucking eat bullshit without you explaining it to me. And anyway, and different people have all kinds of different learning disabilities, and it's just a matter of figure them out, figure out how those people learn. And once you figure out how they learn, it's easy to teach to them, right? I learn by taking things apart and putting them back together. Even like math equations. If it's A equals B plus C, I want to make it equal B and I want to make it equal C. And I'll work that equation through and deconstruct it in each way to make it all equal. And then I can understand it better and comprehend it better. And then I'll remember it and retain it. Also, it's just, we could easily tweak up our school systems so that every kid's abilities were focused on, and so that you knew kind of what those abilities were going to benefit as in the career world. You'd know that, okay, this kid's going to make a good philosopher or whatever because of these traits, or this kid's going to make a good mechanic because of these traits, and this kid's going to make a good mathematician because of these traits or whatever. But and obviously there's always choice and stuff in there, and but the mathematician would learn a lot of different sciences and all that kind of focus on those things, but he would also want to have the ability to look into trades and things too, because there's a lot of math in that, and like there's a big gap between engineers and the people who actually do the work. The PEI bridge always comes to mind as a good example. When they were building the bridge, they asked them, do you have to take into account the curvature of the earth? And the engineer said, no, the curvature of the earth math has no real world application. That's just for school. And that's the kind of problems where, as a carpenter, You know, we have a lot of problems with engineers where they'll send you these blueprints and you look them over and it's like, what the hell are they thinking? Why'd they do this and this and that? And it takes a long time to back and forth with these engineers making these blueprints. And, you know, I've seen my, like guys that I was apprenticing under, you know, draw things on a napkin and show it to the engineer, and the engineer's mind be blown, and you know, want to keep, like, can I keep this? Oh my God, wow, right? And I don't know. It's just a very big divide, and I think that divides in everything in our culture. That same divide is in all of our academia. Uh, it's hard to put it into archaeology, but it's there. It's very, very prominent in that field and earth science and stuff like that. Like, it's crazy the amount of misrepresentation that happens and stuff like that. The way it works is that if I'm an archaeologist and I want to go dig, I need somebody to pay for me to dig. So I go to who's it down the road, whatever, big corporation guy, say Heinz Ketchup, and I say, can I get money to go dig over here? And they say, yeah, sure. You bring us all your findings, and then we'll tell you what you're allowed to release and what you're not, or whatever. And so then I go and I dig and I find a bunch of stuff. I bring it back to them. They approve what I'm allowed to talk about, and that's what I'm allowed to talk about. And they take away the rest. If you want to prove this, back me up here. Look up the Bosnian pyramid. It's a little tricky to find the videos and stuff on it because Google doesn't want you to find it. But there was a whole whack of lawsuits about all of this because the guy wanted to dig and he had the money to dig, but the government and stuff, they didn't want him to, and they kept saying that he was a fraud and all this stuff. And anyway, he sued. He had to go through a bunch of lawsuits. I forget all the different things that he sued, but the way it worked out was that he was directly digging for the people. So he had to release all his findings in real time to the people as if they were the ones funding him. And so it was the first dig of its kind. It was very historic. And it's one of the, well, it is the most open geology example that you could find, I'm sure, because every other one is funded by some douchebag that doesn't want you to know what's really going on, right? The Smithsonian's a big example. They bought up skeletons all throughout the 18 and early 1900s by the thousands and hid them away somewhere. Like giants. All these giant skeletons of people and stuff like that, and they just hide them away. Anyways, back to my utopian future. Things like that would be, every archaeological dig would be wide open and it delivered to the people in real time. And all scientific knowledge would be opened and given to people in real time and without bias or misrepresentation. So, like the geologic time scale is based on circular reasoning, where they age the rocks by the fossils and they age the fossils by the rocks. So things like that just wouldn't even exist. That wouldn't even be a thought in this future. There would be evil running the planet. It would all be for good. So the real Hebrews would be running the planet, and people would be happy servants. That's the way the Bible describes it. We're either happy servitude to Jacob, or we're enslaved to Esau. That's your choices, right? So do you want to be enslaved like we are now, or would you rather be a happy servant to the real people of the Bible? Which would mean that you would have to really, blah, blah, blah. You would have to be servant to African Americans and Native Americans and stuff if you're white. So um, I would be happy to do that myself. I'd much rather be a loving servant than a fucking dirty slave like I am right now. Um, anyway, so in this future, those people, the African Americans and whatnot that always talk about reparations and whatnot, would actually stop talking about reparations because that's an Edomite word, and they would start talking about being the real Hebrews. And people would just say, here's tithes. And we wouldn't say, I'm sorry that history happened. We would say, this was history. It happened. Let's never make it happen again. And we would be very open about it. And we would be compassionate about it, but not apologetic or guilty about something that you didn't have anything to do with. You weren't even born. So it just doesn't make sense to be all, apologetic. That'd be like me saying, I'm sorry that Jeffrey Dahmer existed because he was white and I'm white, so I'm just as guilty as him. Or what, like Jack the Ripper, he was probably a white guy. I should apologize for that. I know he was in Britain. I'm Scottish a little bit, so you never know. I could have been raped by a Brit. One of my grandparents or whatever definitely was raped by some Brit at sometime. So I guess I'd be related to Jack the Ripper somehow, you know what I mean? We're all related to Adam, and he had a son named Cain who was a sinner, and so really we should all apologize for that because Cain killed Abel, so we're all dirty fucking murderers too. So, let's really start apologizing about history here, guys. What else did we do? We could just start going through the list and just start apologizing and paying people for things that our ancestors did. Like, it fucking stupid. Are you? Whew. Yeah, that's reparations. Well, and the Edomites love to advise the Hebrews on how to deal with their problems, but they always give them advice that they themselves would never do. So they say, protest. But if it was their problem, they would buy in. They would, like if they say, oh, they're going to close down your center, go protest. But if it was my center that they were going to close down, not mine, I'm just a poor boy. But if it was their center that it was going to get closed down, they'd go buy it. They'd just, no, we were making this acquisition and it's not being closed down. It's now ours. You know what I mean? That's how they solve problems. But then they're really quick to advise the Hebrews how to solve their problems in different stupid weird ways, like asking people to pay for history. Now, yes, America was built on your backs, and now you're finally getting to enjoy that. It sucks the way it happened, but now you get a great, rich, free country that you are a part of. Seems pretty good deal, pretty great, if you ask me. You're in the freest and best country in the world with the least amount of racism in all of history. Yeah, for sure. Might be a little less racism in Australia or Canada, but that's all arguable because it's pretty much the same culture. We're just a little bit behind you guys or whatever. I think that Canada, I just always say we're 5 years behind the States. We always do what they do. We're just 5 years behind them. So we'll have Don Cherry be our prime minister here in a couple of years. He'll be our Donald Trump. I wonder if he'll be a conservative. I imagine he will be, because it's harder to piss off conservatives. It's easy to get liberals wound up, but it's hard to piss off and get conservatives wound up. So you got to do crazier, stupider things like Donald Trump or whatever, or and you got to have them give back a lot of things and do a lot of good things, and then be shown as a bad guy and lied about and all that stuff. And it played out like perfect. So there's no way that it was just a coincidence or whatever. Like, that was just boop. Anyway, the utopian future. I think it's. What else would it need? Our medical foods, things like that. Everybody's lawn would be a garden. Every community park would be a garden. We'd have water cars, number one, but we'd also have water motors running power plants, also making clean drinking water for our major cities. So you could just fill a power plant with like 350 motors out of, from Chevy, or get 305s or whatever, or you could go to Ford and get the 301s or whatever. And put the Stanmeyer water cylinders into the, you'd have to get crate motors with distributors, because if it has coil pack, it won't work. But then you get them with the distributors, so that you got your spark plug wires, and you put in the Stanmeyer technology, and then they run as water cars. It's just a matter of changing the spark plug. Boop, that's it. And they make clean drinking water out of dirty water. So, but then you have to take the spark plug device out. I think it was every 3 months, and clean it. Very easy process. I watched a video on a guy cleaning his and put it back together. It was really simple, and then hook it back up, and away you go. And yeah, that would make the clean drinking water and power for an entire city. No problem. And then you'd have to have batteries as well in order to charge the batteries, and then have a supply of power. But even the lines and all the wires in your house are all full of charge. So that's actually like a surplus. It's like a dam, like a water dam, but it's power dam. So that's all a surplus of charge that's ready to go into your house at any time. So, so you'd have all that. Plus you'd have all your you'd need, huge batteries. But that technology, like, we're right there. And I'm sure if we put our minds to it and actually unleashed science and stopped being so biased about it, and stopped being like, oh, there's no profit in it, let's kill it, then this technology would be so far advanced it would blow your mind. But instead, psychopaths rule the world. Yeah. Anyway, utopian future. People would just get up and go to work because they wanted to. And that's the other thing. I think the Amish, there's some kind of in between there, between what we do and what they do. Like I was saying, every yard would be a garden. But we would need cities, because there's people that are driven for that. There's people that love that. There's people that's what they want in life. They want to live in a city at a fast pace and do big things. There's also people who are just laid back and want to uh, build their house on their little piece of land and have their chickens and their gardens and their get themselves set up and help their grandkids build their house and just spend their time reading books and go growing closer to God. And I think that should be a life choice, a very prominent life choice. I think that's one of the smarter life choices. Dedicating your life to the Torah is, and to mind mastery and things of this nature, um, is very, very good. I don't even know what else to say about it. This is very good. I don't know. I'm sure there's better words, but maybe not. Um, I'm gonna shut up, I think, for a while. I'll keep thinking about it. My utopian future. I like thinking about it when I'm on the garden because I think that's where most people should be, in their gardens, just, loving life and thinking about creation. When I muse upon creation, muse is to think. To be amused is to have a lack of thought or to let somebody think for you. Amusement is, letting somebody else think for you. So when I muse upon creation, meaning that we are supposed to muse upon creation, we're supposed to think about the world and look at the stars. We're supposed to look at a brook, look at a blade of grass, look at a tree. Think about that. Think about a bumblebee. Just watch a bumblebee for a while. Watch a whole hive of bumblebees for a while. Creation is amazing. It's just something that should be thought about. That's all. And, I think that should be something that we should want our kids to have. Something that we should want our kids to experience and to do. We should want them to think about who they are, why they're here, and how they were created and why they were created, and just all about it. How complicated they are. How complicated everything is. How connected they are. How connected everything is. How connected all our energies are.